Welcome to the Blackburn End Podcast. This is just one big roller coaster of emotions. Last week we're feeling down and negative. This week we're buzzing once again. And whilst the issues are still there in the hierarchies of the club, which is now being highlighted in the media, there's a lot needs to sorting, let's be honest. We can focus this week on what we all love, and that is the football. You know, what has happened on this pitch has been magnificent. So let's get on to the headlines. So as Rovers lose their manager on the same day, they get the win as a trip to the Hawthorns proves fruitful in a 2-0 win against West Brom. Eustace moves on, splitting the fan base on who to direct our anger at. David Lowe takes charge for the second time, leading the team to another 2-0 win, this time at home to Plymouth. Fans are purring over the performances of the players, with the likes of Gueye and Dolan proving vital in both wins. And the new signings are also getting those rave reviews. And the manager search has begun. But who are we linked to? Who do we want? Let's discuss that. But Mark, have you ever known a time like this where it's just so up and down?
Yeah, it just seems to be life as a Rovers fan. It's I've enjoyed the ups this week, though. I think they make the ups all the more sweeter. We talked a few weeks ago, didn't we, about, and this is going to sound disrespectful, but Preston muddle their way through the Championship every year, never seem to cause a splash in either direction. That's never us. In whatever way we're going about it, it is never dull.
No. We used to say, like, you know, we was all or nothing on the pitch, and it feels like we're all or nothing off the pitch, on the pitch. It's either we're fully up and we're loving life, or we're feeling massively negative, and people are messaging us saying, why are you so negative and stuff. But yeah, it's been a great week for the football, and it's nice to focus on the football a little bit more this week, especially after these two wins. So straight off the bat, we go to West Brom. I was messaging you about it beforehand, but before we get into that, let's just play our initial match reaction after the game. Oh my God, mate, I was not expecting that. I messaged you before, I was expecting an absolute drubbing today with everything that's gone on. But the lads, oh my God, that performance from start to finish, they gave absolutely everything. And let's talk about Gueye. We wavered. We said at the start that we saw something, then we wavered. And then we started to see something again, and today it all came together. The finishing, the touches, the passes, the hold-up play, even the defensive work. He gave absolutely everything. I'm going to give some credit to Dolan as well, mate. I thought Dolan's success percentage was high. Everything he did seemed to be coming back to our players. His football intelligence was there today. Just everyone from back to front gave absolutely everything. Super proud. I don't know what the future is going to hold from a management point of view, but Lowe's done it again, mate.
That is my club. What an absolute performance that is. They absolutely worked their socks off for each other and for the club. Special mentions to Lewis Travis. He was organising them. He was leading them. He was housing as he needed to do. But, there was a point where he was organising from a free kick near the end. He was demanding people, dragging them in the right place. Danny Batt in the first half did the same thing. About first 15 minutes, there was a couple of times where Armstrong peeled onto High and peeled onto Bath, and he was available for the counter. They didn't get the ball there. And Batt, I'm sure it was him, grabbed them all, got us back at 10 yards, got Travis and Buckley sat in front of him on the toes and just denied the space. And they all absolutely worked themselves into the ground. And it was just, we needed to see that today. We needed to see how they'd respond. And the fact that they're still together means we can be. And I'm going to be perfectly honest, mate, that is up there with one of the best performances in a togetherness and a team spirit I have seen in a long time. I absolutely adore this team. And we've got to remember, it's the team that we adore, not anyone else. And it's an absolute farcical, isn't it? I think we've got to give a special mention to John Buckley. I thought Dolan was great. This Mac Gueye that we signed in January, 100 times the one we had in the summer. But I also have to give a special mention to the coaching staff for them to do what they've done today. When you think today, we've actually still got a manager and him and his coaching staff aren't even at the game. Disgraceful, whatever's going on there. But this team right in front of us, this coaching staff, deserve our full respect and our full backing. Operation Pack Out Ewood and show people what club we can be.
Yeah, and perfectly put, mate. When you sent me that voice note and I listened to it, I was like, absolutely spot on. Let's rewind to that day. We was hearing things that Eustace hadn't heard before, anything until after the Wolves game and this, that, and the other, which proved to be untruthful when he then comes out in his interview and said he heard on the Friday about everything that was going on. So it was all up in the air about management. We still didn't know who was actually going to be taking. There was nothing official. But that coaching staff, those players, the players would have been set up to a level, but for the coaching staff to have to deal with that situation and come away with a win is magnificent, isn't it?
Unbelievable. To give some context to that, so obviously not only is John Eustace gone and he leads most of the training, both his assistants have gone, and they mainly as a trio take training. So David Lowe has changed his role since Eustace came in. David Lowe's pretty much an opposition scout, does a great job at that, clearly highlights their threats, how we think we can counter that. That then gets sent to the video analysis team. They break that down, and the team come up with a coaching staff, come up with a plan to counteract it and work on the training ground. But he's not really been on the training ground that much. Damien Johnson the same. Damien Johnson does a lot of the technical work, a lot of the one-on-one stuff. So when we're talking about, I don't know, let's say Gueye, we're talking to him about his hold-up play. You can't do all of that on the training ground, particularly when you're playing 3 games in a week. So what Damien Johnson's doing a lot of the work is video analysis, finding clips, showing him where he should be, showing him what he's done well, what he needs to do, one-on-one work like that. So they've not been on the training ground properly. The only one is Ben Benson that's been there. And you've not just lost a manager, although we hadn't fully lost him at that point. I think it was pretty much done, but he was still technically employed. You've lost 2 assistant managers, and you've lost everything coaching-wise that the players knew. For them to carry on the way they have shows, to be fair, how well drilled they have been, because it's become second nature. But actually, for that coaching staff, they have adapted and stepped up. And that is what people need to remember when they talk about a football club. That they will see David Lowe now, and they'll see Benson, and they'll see Johnson and Sharon and Paul Butler and the work that they're doing. But actually, there's hundreds of those people at the training ground. There's hundreds of people that and working in the club that work absolutely to the max day in, day out. And when we're having a pop at the club, you just need to remember sometimes that, yeah, it's our club as fans, but there's a lot of good people that work at that football club. There's a lot of things that we'd like to change, but there are still a lot of good people. And I think the fact that the coaching staff stepped up in the way they did, it was a great moment, really. It really showed that what we have at this football club and what makes us special, despite everything else.
Exactly, and we said it last week when we was ranting. The Venkies are extremely lucky to have some very passionate people, be it fans and people around the club, that are willing to step up, go above and beyond. And this just personified it, didn't it? When you go into a game like this, I messaged you and I said, I've got a really bad feeling. Like, this was like a Fulham 7-0 kind of feeling. And it was just one of those where I felt like the game was going to go one way or the other, but for me, in my gut, it was actually going to go extremely negative because of just how everything was done. Whether it was unprofessional, I don't know, because we don't know the full ins and outs, but it just felt like, it's a really bad situation with the EFL because the games are so thick and fast. There is no perfect time to lose a manager unless it's an international break. So for us to actually go into this game and, like you say, have coaches that haven't necessarily been on the training ground, it is testament to the fact that the guys have been so well drilled in what they need to do that they don't necessarily need that on a game day. Lowe probably came in and just said, right, you know what you got to do, you know the situation, this is how you're going to play. You're going to play how you play. And I know that if we do this, this and this against West Brom, it's probably going to work. So that's the feeling I got. Because like you said, David Lowe's the one that tends to scout the opposition. And it just seemed like the perfect storm. And in favour of us. There was a few things I noticed tactically in the first half. So let's actually get into the game now. So from the first half, I actually saw some people on social media saying how boring that first half was, and they felt like there was a lack of creativity from our point and things. I was actually quite happy with the first half. The noticeable changes for me were don't necessarily mess about with the back when they're pressing too much, because you have got the pace with Armstrong on the press. So I did see Pears actually knocking it long a little bit more than usual. But I also saw us passing it around a little bit. I mean, there was a couple of passes across the box I was a little bit concerned about at times. But I actually was quite impressed. I thought the energy that we showed, the endeavour, and the word that everyone kept using was galvanised. They looked like a galvanised team. And straight off the bat, Dolan looked like he was simplifying his game at times. When it didn't seem to be working for him, he was willing to turn back and pass it and do the more high percentage stuff. And just generally, everyone looked good, including left back Ribeiro. In that first half was really keeping their right wing at bay. What was your thoughts on the first half?
So I understood what you were saying pre-game. I think nobody really knew what was going to happen, and it was a massive game, obviously, but mainly because I needed to see where are the players at here. Because there's two options, isn't there? Really, you either go into your shell and feel sorry for yourself, or you go, do you know what? Absolutely not. We've got ourselves into this position and we're going to move forward. I do think it would be absolutely ridiculous not to say that a lot of the foundations that we've got here are built from Eustace and his staff. So the players know plan A, B, C, and D within games, little tweaks. They know what they're doing. So it doesn't require that coaching necessarily now. It just requires actually defensive midfield two, just drop onto the back foot. And then they know what they need to do when they're there. So that foundation is clearly in place. And I'll come on to that later when we talk about who to bring in. But the fact that we saw all the players on top notch, all full effort, full concentration, that told me all I needed to know. I thought, actually, the moment I've seen that from the first half, I thought, we've got a chance here. This is not a team that's going to start feeling sorry for themselves and fall off a cliff. They might still fall off a cliff, ability-wise or performance, but certainly not endeavour. We are absolutely at it. In terms of little key details, what I did notice was Adam Armstrong played centrally, which he can play off the left under Mowbray in particular. And there was one or two times, and nothing came of it, but just as the camera panned, you could see Danny Bat and Hyam once or twice, he got them isolated. And had West Brom managed to break on us, he would have got in clearly with his pace. And there was a subtle change. I'm sure it was Danny Bat. I picked up on it in my match reaction. And he got Hyam closer and he got the fullbacks within the width of the box. And that just gave them the protection they needed. And also Travis was right in front of them. I mean, he was obviously amazing on both games. But he was right in front of them and that stopped the space. And that was the issue at QPR, wasn't it? Ilias Chair, really unlike us, got loads of space in that number 10 position. We didn't allow that at all for West Brom. And once we started to stifle them and then they were resorting to getting crosses in, that's why it will become boring to some people because they were running out of ideas. And as much as I love Tony Mowbray, I've seen that from Tony Mowbray teams at Ewood. Loads of endeavour, loads of possession, loads of good things, but then you got, you need to change this a bit. This is not going to work. Just keep doing the same thing. And I thought we actually got real grip of the game and we were in full control of it at half time. I wasn't fully confident that we'd go on to win necessarily, but I'd seen enough that told me, actually, we've got the measure of these here to keep a clean sheet.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it felt like we was extremely disciplined. Like you say, Travis had just dropped back when he needed to. Hyam had one of his best games in a hell of a long time. I was really impressed with the performances of the defence. I did think that West Brom weren't necessarily playing that well. I don't want it to be that it was all us playing awesome and, West Brom were giving us everything. I don't think they necessarily were that first half. It seemed quite tentative at times from them. And we had our opportunities. We had our opportunities in that first half. And I was just really impressed at half time. I was really surprised when I took to social media and I saw some people being relatively negative. Some people that I didn't really expect to be that negative as well when I looked at their social media. And then the second half comes and I think we was out the traps. And it seemed like we'd made a few tweaks, like you said. It seemed like we was willing to push. And they started to give a few mistakes maybe. And I thought we should have had a penalty. I saw a few angles where he's taken Gueye down. The ball's not been touched, but because of where the ball's kind of landed, the refs looked at it and thought he's got it. It's obviously knocked out for a corner. And a few seconds later, it didn't matter whether we had the penalty or not because our man, Maktar, gets his goal.
I think we should have had one in the first half, Mike. There was a point where there was loads of bodies in the box and Gueye went down and he gave a free kick to them. And it might not have been a penalty to us, but it certainly wasn't a free kick to them. But I think you're right. I think Gueye looked... Confidence is a mad thing, isn't it? Everything he was doing, his touch... He looked stronger. He looked quicker. And, I mean, we've seen that goal worked on before. We've seen them nearly do it. And, I mean, keeper should have obviously done better. It was nice of us to put Ainsley Pears in the nets for them. But, sorry, Ainsley. I was only joking. But, yeah.
It was great technique of him to even get that power on the shot at that level, wasn't it?
It was a great effort, wasn't it? And the fact that he's got the confidence to even try that, shows everything where he's at the moment. But yeah, I thought we were really at it. I mean, Travis was buzzing around, wasn't he? He was unbelievable. He was everywhere. He was leading. He was it was old-fashioned captain's performance, wasn't it? He was everywhere. And I saw a clip from one of the West Brom commentators talking about, he'd spoke to the players in the midweek and they said they hate playing against Lewis Travis. They said Travis is the one player in the league they hate playing against because he's at them, chatting at them all game, having a pop at them, winding them up, he's niggling at their ankles, and he's a good player. And the more I watch Lewis Travis this season, I knew he could rat about, I knew he could get stuck in, I knew he could be a bit of a housery. He's actually a very good footballer now. And some of his
he's stepped up, hasn't he? I think he's got posters of Robbie Savage up in his bedroom, hasn't he?
Well, we all have posters of Robbie Savage in our bedroom. But I also thought John Buckley played like John Buckley can play. He was quickening the play, and that's when he does that, he's as good as we've got to do it, and that's what we need more of from him. But he looked a little bit freer, I thought, from Buckley's body language. But all the other players looked like they were bang up for the game. Absolutely fine. But John Buckley just looked a little bit freer. Like he wasn't fearing maybe coming off or whatever it was. I don't know. That's, just guessing. But it was interesting with Dolan, wasn't it? Obviously, he's put a post out about Eustace saying how much he, meant the world to him and thanking him. And he clearly had a good relationship with Eustace. But there was also almost an inevitability about when the subs board used to go up, it was Dolan at 60 minutes. No matter, almost regardless of how he was playing. So it was very interesting, this performance. I thought it was very pleasing, wasn't it?
Well, I think we need to talk about Gueye and Dolan separately after we talk about the Plymouth game, because I think there's a few things we need to break down with them, because these two games they have played really, really well. And, Callum Britton played well in the West Brom game, but we expect that now. Hyam had one of his better games. I thought Ribeiro, because that was another player that we looked at and we knew that he had some experience in the Championship and we knew that he had some quality. But when a player hasn't played that much and he's coming into a new team, you don't necessarily know how he's going to play. And I thought he had a good game. I just thought that looking around the whole team, everyone just seemed to step up. And in a way, it was like they had no pressure. I don't know whether they were just like, you know what, this is... And Lowe could have said that to him. He could have said, look, there's no pressure here, boys. You expected to lose. You've lost your manager. You've on a relatively poor run of form with a few results that haven't been fantastic. West Brom should have been the team that were winning. And they played quite free. And that showed when we go and get the second goal, which, I mean, the way that Weimann knocked it down and Gueye just let the ball run across him like 8 yards out. We haven't seen this kind of casual, relaxing play, and we're doing it away at the Hawthorns in midweek, which is a very difficult place to go. And it just felt like the pressure was completely off. And to be honest, we could have even got more. I am going to get into the fact that West Brom had a couple of goals disallowed. We will get into that. But when we went 2-0 up, I was like, this is just a fantastic performance. And it just looked like we were relaxed.
It was a complete away performance, wasn't it? I suspect the players were relieved to be playing football, because that's where every footballer wants to be, is out on that pitch. And I think after all the noise and all the, is he going to go? What's going on? It was probably a bit of a relief as well to just get out there. And then, obviously, we'll go on to the Plymouth game. But then, as the game was wearing on, I'm thinking, well, what a performance. But actually, then you start going, well, can they maintain this against Plymouth? Or is this going to be one of them galvanising situations where it's a bit of a perfect storm in some ways and it's brought them together, but then actually reality sets in? And obviously it didn't. So, yeah, I think I couldn't praise them all enough, if I'm being honest. The only person, I'm not trying to find a negative, but the only person I thought that wasn't at it was Cozy Dewberry. I thought he came on and added very little to the game. I thought he looked very weak. Every other player, though, I thought added something. Cantwell came on. It wasn't quite working for him, but he worked his socks off. So, yeah, it was a really positive evening, wasn't it? And it was very needed.
Yeah, and you could tell in the away end, the relief when those goals went in, that they could actually enjoy themselves. And I love the fact that Rovers put on a social media post of the bench, just leading up to the final whistle. And you could see every one of those players was just invested, especially Danny Barr. You could tell, because obviously he came off injured. And, we haven't even spoken about that, but he came off injured. And Sanderson came on and did a great job. But you could see Danny Barr, like on the bench, just how invested he was in that team getting that win. And, Vyman seemed to be the only one that was relatively relaxed. He was talking into the camera, having a bit of fun. But, when that final whistle went, you could tell that the whole team just really needed that. But before then, West Brom obviously did have a goal disallowed. I'll be honest, I don't know why that was disallowed, the Armstrong one. I've seen it a couple of times, and I don't know what the ref's seen. I think he's seen a grab or someone being pulled.
There was two hands, wasn't there? Two hands with Graham back.
Yeah,
I know it's very, very soft. I think if you put two hands on anybody in a box when you're an attacking player and the other player moves forward, whether that's because they're jumping, whether they're enhancing it, 9 times out of 10 it gets given. And the ref had a good view. He saw two hands in somebody's back. I think we couldn't have gone play. We'd have gone, bloody hell, that's soft if it was us. But I think they get disallowed all day long. I really do. Whether they should or not, it's a different matter, but I think they do.
Yeah, I looked at it a couple of times, and it did seem like a bit of a soft one, but I'd take it all day. But Pears made another good save. We looked solid at the back. They were missing a few chances themselves. I think they had quite a few more shots than us. Yeah, they had 13 shots to our 6, but I didn't feel like we were necessarily under major pressure from them. Do you feel like West Brom just didn't really turn up, or was it more us?
Yeah, a little bit. I think we were more motivated and more determined to get a result, weren't we? And I think they came up against that. Once we'd gone 1-0 up and we're frustrating them, I think they were struggling to find a way forward, and they moved the ball too slow from their perspective. But then I think we were also very, very dangerous on the break, so they're probably been a bit wary of that. Sometimes you just get a feeling, though, don't you? This is just not going to be our day. We've had plenty of them, particularly, it always seems to be midweek, but very interesting that we managed to go away from home. We didn't do that very often under Eustace and get a result, and didn't look tired. We actually looked more of a threat as the game was going on. I'd have liked to have seen Carvahal come on a bit earlier. I think that would have frightened them to death, because we were getting Furlong was coming forward quite a lot on that their right back. I'd have liked to have seen him either, gamble and leave Carvahal free or push back a bit. I think that would have stopped them coming forward a little bit more. But yeah, I just think it's very interesting, isn't it, what mentality can do? And I'm not having a pop at anybody here at all, but we haven't managed to do that too often for 12 months or beyond 18 months. So What I would say
it
is,
used
I
to be
think,
inevitable, didn't it, that a midweek away game on telly was a guaranteed loss.
yeah, absolutely, and usually a very dull game. What I would say is, I think that this last week or so has shown another reason why experience is important, because as much as the coaching staff have done an amazing job, Travis is an experienced boy now. Danny Bart, you can see what he's bringing. Vyman's got, a nice calm head on him. I think there's a number of them now that will be playing a very key role in that dressing room. And it probably doesn't need too much input. I'm not disparaging the coach, but it probably doesn't. I think you can see that dressing room is I bet that the coaching staff and even under Eustace very rarely go in that dressing room in the training ground. I think they are ones who pull themselves together and keep each other in check. I think they've got a really good balance in that dressing room now, and a lot of experience, and then lots of energy. And I think they are, ironically, very, very together, and they will fight for each other.
No, exactly. And I agree. And it was really hard for me to pick out, any particular standout performers. Obviously Gueye got the goals because I thought everyone played well. I mean, Hedges was quite quiet. Whilst he didn't make any necessary mistakes, I don't actually think he was playing much down the left-hand side.
No, but what I would say is, I mean, I've found that Hedges away from home, I would play him quite often on that left-hand side to do a bit of a job. And Furlong and then their right winger, whose name is just escaping me, Fellows, isn't it? Are good players, and nothing really came down their side for them either. I think he actually did a really good tactical job, which I found he's done in the past. I've been a little bit critical of him this season. I think he's brought very little to some games. I think he was quiet on the ball, but I think he did a very important job actually against West Brom.
Yeah, all jokes aside about Hedges and me having a man crush on his footballing side, he hasn't done a hell of a lot this year, and he's actually had quite a bit more game time.
He's been better a lot,
and more run, of a run in the game. But I think that is, one reason for that is we're starting to get a little bit more out of other positions. I do want to see more from Hedges. I thought he was quite quiet this game, but like you said, I mean, he's coming up against some really good quality. And when it's working for Dolan, if it's working, you keep passing him the ball and you keep letting it go. I thought Vyman did well. Like you say, Cantwell came on and did a job. But yeah, I just thought it was a really good performance, and it was really nice to see it out with a clean sheet. There was no usual, like against Preston, where you concede a late goal and then it's backs to the wall. I felt like it was a really professional performance, a real energetic performance. It was a sensible, tactical game. I don't think they had. It's a typical Mowbray not having a plan B. If plan A isn't working, we'll just keep going. And I was just really chuffed when the game finished. I had quite a few messages off West Brom fans, and they were just like, "Why's Eustace left you? Like, you are playing fantastic." And they were all talking like Gueye's this £20 million striker, because obviously they don't watch us week in, week out. But they're like, Gueye's why is he with you? And Dom Hyam, how brilliant was he at the back? And they're just talking about with these world beaters, and I felt like really proud. I just felt really proud to get those messages off people, because usually fans, they message you just saying, "How did you win that?" and "You got lucky" and all of this. But actually, near enough everyone that I talked to was just complimentary.
Yeah, I feel really proud of them, and I feel like I feel galvanised. I feel like if anyone dares have a pop at any of them now, I feel like I want to take their head off. We can say it because we love them, and it's coming from a good place, but nobody else can, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. I think a bit of the siege mentality is arriving, and I'm really, really positive.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, like we've said so many times, we're not pundits or anything. We're fans, and we enjoy the football, and we hate it when we're talking about the business side of the club. We want that to be the quiet thing. That's just going along in the background. But the way the club's gone over the last, well, especially the last couple of weeks, but since the owners came in, it feels like we're having to talk about stuff that we don't really want to talk about. And it's great to have a game like this. And obviously, we're going to move on to the Plymouth game now, where we can actually talk about the football and break things down, talk about the players, the tactics, and so on. It's nice to be able to do that this week. But before we do move on to that Plymouth game, was there any 3-word reactions that were particularly
it was
pleasurable?
Absolutely rammed with them. Do you know what? There was loads. There was so bloody proud, pride, defiance, togetherness. There was a lot of togetherness. Do you know what my favourite one was? Though Ben S on X. No manager bounce. Loved it.
I do like that one. And obviously then we move on to the Plymouth game. A few things happened in between, which we'll talk about shortly. Let's just keep talking about football. So we move into the Plymouth game, and Plymouth aren't exactly doing well from a positional side, but actually they'd shown a good run of form, getting a new manager.
Right. Yeah.
And I came into this, I was confident based on what I'd seen from the West Brom game. But then from a flip side, I was also, slightly concerned about their run of form. Before I play the match audio, what was your first thoughts when you head into this game?
I needed to see a good start. I needed to see that it wasn't, like I'd said, you sort of after the Lowe Mayor's short, and that sort of, sometimes when you so much emotion and everything that went into Wednesday's game, you can almost have an adrenaline dump, can't you? And I was thinking, please don't. Then I saw 4 changes. I thought, oh, fair enough. 4 changes, freshening it up a bit. And then I saw who they were, and I thought, that's a bit strange. But do you know what? In Lowe we trust. And so it proved. Yeah, I thought, obviously, for sure, will be determined to have a great game against his former club. So yeah, fair enough. But I was.
Do you think that goes into it when they're deciding, or do you think it's a professional game? You just pick the players who you think is going to win, or do you think Lowe did look at Forshaw and think, you know what, you're going to give me that bit extra today because of the situation you've been in?
I suspect that the initial element of it is John Buckley's physical health, and he's played a lot of games after playing none. So I think that will be the initial one. If Buckley was at peak fitness after he played so well against West Brom, I think he would have played. But then after that, I think, yeah, it does. If you're looking at, do I put JRC in there? Can Buckley, do we have 60 minutes or do we look to bring him on? No, I think it does. I think somebody who's got an experienced head, who's then really fired up for a game, I think, absolutely. You try and utilise that, don't you?
No, exactly. And we did obviously go on to win 2-0. So these were our initial reactions after the game. Absolutely buzzing, son. I'm just astounded about the difference a week makes. On the podcast last week, we're talking about the ownership. We're talking about, how we've lost a manager or was just about to lose a manager, and how the team are going to react, who we're going to get in, and just generally how disappointed we were with certain situations. But I'll tell you what, the lads just gave everything they had in the week, and they gave it again today. Just really impressed with their efforts, their determination. When things weren't necessarily going right, when they were going forward, they'd turn, they'd keep possession, and then they'd recycle it, and then they'd look for something different. It was like all the good things we've had over the past few years in the performance under JDT, Mowbray, and Eustace, all rolled into one. I mean, let's be honest, we know it's Plymouth, but you can only play the team that's in front of you. But I thought Dolan put in an unreal performance. It's what we've been crying out for, and whatever's been said to him the last 2 games, it has definitely worked. Gueye's just showing the form that we all hoped he would do, and like we said before, he's doing what we wanted Sam Gallagher to do. He's getting himself in there. He's trying his best. The touches have been brilliant. Ribeiro, left back. I mean, we need to talk about him. I thought he was brilliant. I think he's definitely someone we could potentially get signed up to a new deal for at least another year. But we've got so much to break down in the pod, mate, and I'm looking forward to this one.
He's indestructible, always believing. David Lowe. Lowe. Well, Mikey boy. 2 wins in a week. We've won a midweek game. Do we keep the same managerial team? Do we upset the apple cart and bring somebody in to get us over the line? King Kenny was there today, rumour has it. What a team performance again. Absolute team of men. That's our team. That's why we do it. I think we have a real chance, you know. I really do. I think it's a big decision now who we bring in, and the capabilities of this squad are there. You watch some of the teams in and around us, they're not wanting it either. Coventry are flying, but then you look at the 2 teams above us, and obviously they've got plenty of quality, but I do think we've got a real chance here. Let's break it down.
I'll be honest, mate. When I heard your voice note and it had the chant, I'd done one back and then realised I hadn't actually had my thumb on record. So I was basically just chanting to myself and no one else. And then I just went into chatty beaty mode where I then decided to break the whole thing down on my match reaction. But yeah, I was just buzzing after that. I really was. And I know it's silly because you should think, oh, well, 2-0 versus Plymouth, you should be doing that. But again, being Rovers, being the situation, I was just chuffed. 2 goals, clean sheet. Dolan and, proving me wrong once again, which I'll get to in a bit. It's good. It was good, wasn't it?
Life was good. It was. I thought Plymouth were very poor. I was expecting more with the run they'd been on recently. I think Ryan Hardy going off though on 18, 19 minutes was a big miss for them. He's a massive player for them.
Yeah.
Well, that has helped. I don't think, if we're being full and fair, I don't think they offered very much. However, for all the reasons we've talked about, it was a massive game for us and a massive win. To go and follow up that West Brom emotion and victory with another clean sheet and another 2 goals, when we've not scored loads of goals this season, have we? And the people who put performances in, who have been questioned over the season, put another top drawer performance in. That's why I'm so positive about it. I think there's enough in this group now, actually, that says what we've got this time that I think we haven't had in previous seasons when we've been going for the playoffs. A bit of experience. But also, I felt like previously maybe we've had the talent, but those close games when it's not necessarily mentality, but just that desire to get over the line and a bit of know-how, I think we've got that. I think the games that are tight when it's 0-0, I feel quite confident we can go and nick that and then hold out, whereas we've never, ever had that before. I think we've got a team that are not ashamed, if the game's not free-flowing like they want it to be, to grind one out and get a result in whatever way they need to do it. But on Saturday, I think we took full advantage of a poor Plymouth team, but I think we played very, very well, and I was really, really proud of them once again. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that first half, obviously we didn't get a goal, but we were passing the ball around. It was obvious Plymouth didn't really want to press far too much when we was, passing it around at the back. It seemed like I said, it seemed like we were doing all the things that were positive under Eustace, JDT and Mowbray, all rolled into one tactically. So we were passing it around at the back. Sometimes it felt like we was doing it because we were just going to do it. So under Eustace, we tended to pass around at the back with a little look up to see what's in the second level. Whereas actually it felt like this time it was like just constant recycling of the ball and then pouncing. But there was also the times where we did press and Pairs was like, no, I'm just getting it long. We're not going to mess around at the back. I know that he did make a little bit of a mistake and they got a shot off with one, shanked clearance. But generally it was trying to be relatively high percentage stuff at the back, which I liked. I know Dolan had his header in the 6-yard box, but let's be honest, he's not exactly built for heading the ball. But yeah, I felt like that first half we controlled it. We didn't look like we were going to be putting ourselves into much danger. I did think exactly what you said when Hardy went off. That was quite painful for them. But I agree. I thought quality-wise, they didn't look up to much. I expected a bit more. The size of them, I expected them to be a little bit more physical, and they weren't. I looked at them and I was like, this didn't look a team. Exactly what you said. This didn't look a team that had been winning some games recently. And I like the fact that we didn't seem to be frustrated. We seemed to be just keep hold of the ball, keep cycling it around, and then seeing what opportunities we got.
Yeah, I think they clearly came with a plan to soak it up and try and hit us on the counter and set pieces and things. And if you when you actually look into their recent results, they've been at their best when teams have almost shown a blatant disregard for what Plymouth offer and have committed too many men forward. I do think we moved the ball a bit too slow in the first half. And I think for me, going into the second half, it was just quicken this up and really let's see what they've got now. Do
you think that's energy preservation, though?
Possibly sometimes, but I think it felt like because Plymouth was sitting off, we were moving the ball around because we could. And I just wanted us to quicken it up in that final third. And I thought the moment we did that in the second half, I just thought they couldn't live with us. I thought Dolan's was interchanging. Kozu Dewberry, again, I was surprised he was starting. I thought, like I said, I thought he was the only one against West Brom that didn't really offer much. I'd have liked to have seen Carvahal start. I think he's shown far more. Whether he's
why didn't you think he didn't start? Because I was surprised at that. I forgot to ask you actually about the starting lineup. Well, I was surprised that he didn't get that start.
When I listened to Lowe's comments after the game, he said, he's electric going forward. We're just working with him on his defensive duties. So whether they don't trust him enough, probably is what it is defensively. And they've not really had time to work with him, have they yet? But they've got a full week again now. So, yeah, for me, he offers far more going forward than Kozu Dewberry. I think he's got that real genuine pace, hasn't he, that just makes defenders frightened to death. There's not a lot you can do about it if somebody knocks the ball past you and they're quicker than you. So, but he's got a lot more than that. I think his touch is good. I thought, obviously, the goal he created. But I think we've got to mention Lewis Travis once again was outstanding. The defence were outstanding. Ribeiro, he's just stepped in. He's been what we hoped. He's a real steady Eddie. There's a touch of Gueye about him. He's just slotted straight in like he has been playing, to be fair, at Braga. It's not like he's not played this season, which, obviously Dennis hasn't. But to still slot into a new league, I know he's played in it before, unbelievable. But I just think Tyrese Dolan played... I actually think it supports what we've been saying about him, because that's exactly what he could do every week for me. And if he plays like that every week, he will get a move to the Premier League. The touch for that goal, the awareness and the actual execution of that touch to assist was unbelievable. Now, I know Forshaw had a great finish, and he did. But I've not seen Dolan do that before. I've seen him do tricks. I've seen him score the odd goal. I've not seen him do that. The awareness, and the execution of it was pretty impressive. And if somebody was watching that game, he will get moved to the Premier League. For all the reasons that we talked about. And he's hoping he can continue it from now till the end of the season.
Well, I did make some notes on this. I was going to talk about it in the topic, but actually, I think it's perfect that we talk about it now. I have to be authentic and truthful in what I actually think at the time. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. It's opinion based on what I've seen with my own eyes, same with you, and the people listening, you can debate amongst yourselves whether you agree with us or not. And we obviously chat on here, but I'm not the kind of person to be swayed by other people's opinions. So, when we go on to Twitter, X, whichever way you want to call it, or any social media, and we see people giving these opinions, calling us out, we've got to be truthful to what we believe, don't we? And I've had a lot of people, giving me the "I told you so" line about the likes of Dolan and Gueye, but I've explained why my opinions are and, why I give them. And to be honest, no one can convince me that they saw, what's come from Gueye in the previous few performances. With Dolan, these recent games have, like you say, have just proved us, right. You know, we had it. We knew he had it in him. We knew that he could play to this level. And this is what we wanted to see with Gueye. You know, my gut instinct at the start was there was a player there, same with you. But there was no evidence of it, you know, and we had that prolonged period over the season where he just, you know, I took the mick and I said that he was Make-A-Wish Maktar. And it did feel like his touches weren't there, his movement, he was losing the ball, he was falling to the floor, it just wasn't there. But something has clicked with Gueye, something's clicked with Dolan. And, you know, maybe we are using them differently, maybe it's confidence, but something's definitely clicked. And, you know, like Gueye, his hold up, his touch, his movement, he's playing like he's got that little bit, you know, more time on the ball, hasn't he? He's playing like he understands the league and the players around him that little bit more, be it the opposition and his own players. And it's the same with Dolan. It seems like the last couple of games there is something that has changed with them, whether it's a freedom or what, but they were not playing to the levels that we expected from them over that prolonged period, were they? And if this is them now, long may it continue, and I hope it does, because I want Dolan to be playing like this. I want him to sign. If he plays like this, sign him to a new deal, and he's got that left wing spot for as long as he wants it. But I now need to see him doing this week in, week out, and be more regular with these performances. Rather than these performances being the one-off, I want the poor performances to be the one-off. With Gueye, I think now Gueye, with how he's playing, I actually think this could be his level now. What's your opinion on Gueye?
I think it's been an absolute perfect storm for Gueye, really. So if you look at the things that have happened, he's now had 6 months to get used to the Championship. We've had injuries to the forward line, which means he knows he's going to start. And that confidence in him that, don't worry, if you miss a shot, it doesn't mean you're going to come off the pitch and not play for a few weeks. He's got that inner confidence of, he's not playing on edge. He's not got to constantly probably prove himself, thinking, oh, this might be my only chance for 3 weeks. So there's the element of confidence that he's going to be playing. He's got a couple of goals, so then there's a confidence of that. His family are now over in the country. I think there's a group of things. And then the other one is, it's like all of a sudden we've realised that he can run in behind, but also if you knock a ball into the box and just, as we've spoke about earlier in the season, just hold it up. It doesn't need to be perfectly accurate to him. Hold it up and say to him, get your head on that. He has got the desire and the physicality to do that. And, you know, he's had a couple of goals that have been bumbled in when he's been doing that. And then all of a sudden, I've scored last week and the confidence is there. So then his touch is now better. And that's definitely a confidence thing. He's obviously got the ability to, you know, he's a professional footballer. He's in the Championship. He's not a young kid either, is he? So he's got that ability, but he wasn't showing it with his touch. And he looked to me like a player that was nervous. And also, we don't know how much he actually understands when they're doing the training. His English is improving. When people are talking to him about they're going to have to model things and try and, he's not going to be able to sit with Damien Johnson while he talks through a video. He might be able to physically show him, but it's still not going to be the same as him talking to Dolan and saying, right, Ty, when you're doing this, you know, spin off, do this. All of those things together, I think, are probably what's helped Gueye. But if I was going to put one thing on it, I would say it is probably that confidence of not feeling like he's being judged every week and this is my chance. And if I don't take it, or Hashi's going to be back in and I might get 20 minutes, but, you know, what can I do in 20 minutes? I
think that's another big thing as well. He's had that run because we've had no option other than to play him.
Yeah. So he knows, doesn't he? Like the shot against West Brom, that absolute thunderbolt. Would he have even taken that on previously? He'd have certainly snatched at it. And the goal that he scored at West Brom, he'd have been that desperate to get the ball in the net. He wouldn't have let it come across his body. He would have snatched at it. Some of that's because he's got the confidence of, I can score in this league. But some of it is just that probably relaxed a little touch in terms of, if I miss this, it's not I want to score, but it's not the end of the world. It doesn't mean I'm not going to play for 3 weeks because there's no other real option. So I'm going to get the time to fix my errors. And I think it's just a confidence thing. He's been able to relax into the role. He's a bit more used to the league. We're using him a bit better. and then his family are over. All of those have got to, and he understands English a bit more. They're all massive things when you think about it. And I think when we talk about signing players from abroad, this is what we say, it takes time. You almost need to do it 6 months before they need to make an impact. And that we said that's probably what we're doing with Carvahal, didn't we? Get him in for 6 months, and then next season's when we should see the best of him. Gueye now is 6 months in, and we're seeing the best of him. Hopefully, you're right, yeah. This now needs to be his level, though. And if it is, I know we're joking a little bit, but then you start saying, well, actually, he's got pretty much every attribute you could want in a striker. Then you would be talking, if this was his level for the next 12 months, the figures, we know the figures for strikers, he would be a £20 million player, wouldn't he? This is not Smodic, who's the wrong side of 29.
No, exactly. And we said at the start, at the start of his career with us, he was playing how we wanted Sam Gallagher to play. Putting himself about, going fighting for balls. He does a lot of the positives of what Gallagher did. Yeah. I think Gallagher was a little bit more refined with some of the things, that Gallagher was good at. And if Gueye can do that, then it is an upgrade. Because he is playing, he has been playing to that level, and I do think he's made a big leap. But for all the reasons that you've said, I do think he's made a big leap in his development. And he didn't score. I mean, he had a couple of good chances, and the keeper had to make a pretty good save towards the end of the game. But he proved vital. Dolan was extremely vital. I mean, to get that assist, that touch was phenomenal. Yeah. His goal was really well taken, and I'm glad he was taken off to get the applause 92 minutes, because I think hopefully this gives him I think he's got confidence. I think sometimes he's got too much confidence, and I think he tries to do things beyond his ability. But the term for me is click. Has it clicked? And I'm hoping the last couple of weeks it's clicked with Dolan. Right, if I do this, I know that it's going to work. So the high percentage football. And the last 2 games, he's done high percentage stuff. Yes, okay, he's given the ball away a couple of times. But when you're this kind of player, you have got to try some things. There was a couple of times where he ran at the defender, and yes, he could have cut back and passed, but he tried to take him on and lost it. I'm okay with that now and again. But what I found over most of the season was he was just trying things that he didn't necessarily have the ability to do, and he was becoming extremely predictable for the defenders. If you keep mixing up how when you've got the ball, the defender doesn't know whether you're going to pass it back, take him on. I thought he was quite predictable over that period. And if this is him now, brilliant. Get him a contract, sign him up. I just need to see more of it. Was there anyone else in the team leading up to the goal that you felt like were playing well?
I thought Cantwell had a good game. I thought he looked fitter. I think he's been carrying that calf knock, hasn't he, for a few weeks now. He's been in and out of the team. He looked freer. So I'm suspecting, based on nothing other than the fact that I know he had a calf injury and he had some strapping on and now doesn't. And he was moving around the pitch a lot freer. He was back to how he was a month or so ago. And he was picking passes, quickening the play up, particularly in the second half. He was vital in terms of getting us up the pitch quickly. And not long balls for the sake of it. There were just some bits of quality where you thought, that's why you're in the team.
Next level, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I thought he looked very exciting. I mean, there was a couple of things where he was trying them just for the sake of it, and to get. And this was in the first half when we hadn't even scored. Some of the little flicks and stuff, and you're like, and this goes back to what we said last week about the luxury player that he is. But when you're playing a team like Plymouth, with all due respect, and everyone else is playing really well, you can have Cantwell doing those little flicks and those little touches. Speaking of little touches, that Dolan touch into Forshaw was superb. It all came from a lovely run of play. That finish, though, did he mean it?
Yeah, I think he did. From where I was, it looked like he was trying to aim for that corner. So, yeah. It didn't.
And what do you think of the celebration?
Well, he said his family were there, didn't he, above the thing, and there was a photo of it. So I don't think he's the sort of player to necessarily have too much of a pop, is he? You don't seem a bit of a wind-up merchant. And at the end of the day, Plymouth have facilitated his contract ending so he could come to Rovers near his family. So I can't imagine there's too much animosity there. Yeah, I think it was I think it was a genuine, his family were there. He said his son was saying to him, "Dad, are you ever going to score before you retire?" He's never seen him score, I don't think, and it's been about 9 years. So yeah, I think we'd all go and celebrate with our family, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I mean, on the face of it, I don't think he necessarily had to stand where he stood. I quite like it in a way. And you can understand, obviously. But yeah, I mean, he ended up running towards the Plymouth fans a little bit as well. So there's obviously a lot of frustration there from the lads. And it was a great finish. I genuinely thought he had an okay game as well. He had, well, for what I expect out of Forshaw, I thought he had a pretty good game. And I think he gave the ball away a couple of times, but you get that. You can't be perfect. But I thought he stepped in quite nicely and worked well with Travis.
Yeah, it had an air of inevitability about it. I think if I was a Plymouth fan, I'd have looked at that team and gone, he's going to score today. It just one of those football things that always seems to happen, doesn't it, against your ex-club. But yeah, I thought he did okay. I thought he did some of the dirty work. He's got an experienced head. He's experienced promotion as well. Twice, is it now? So I don't mind the signing of Forshaw at all. I'm not somebody who's going to have a pop at him. I think he's coming to do a job. Brutally, honestly, he's probably fourth choice centre midfielder, and we needed somebody to come in instantly because Baker had gone back and could play. He's done that. So yeah.
I think if a fourth choice midfielder can come in, play a pretty decent game and get a goal like that, I think that's not too bad.
Yeah, I'm very comfortable with the Adam Forshaw signing. I think it was a bit of a necessity at the time. It was who can we get in quick and who can we get in, that will play. And we've actually brought somebody in who's really experienced promotion, probably a very, very good pro. I don't know him, but you would imagine so. Yeah, I'm absolutely fine with it. And I think he doesn't let you down. You know what you're getting from him, so I'm fine with it.
So we're 1-0 up. It's their ex-player that scored, and then Gardpo comes on with all his pace and trickery. And if I was a Plymouth player, I just would have been devastated seeing that, because as soon as he came on, he was running, and I felt like we went into a different level. Yeah, I think we've clicked onto a different level, and I genuinely thought it was going to go to like 3-4-0 at that point, because we just seemed to then, dominate the game. We had the possession, we was getting the chances, but it just wasn't necessarily falling for us where we needed it to fall until the 78th minute when Dolan goes and gets his goal. Again, great move from Gardpo, but it wasn't just him. It was a team move again. It was a great finish, and I think Dolan was kind of relieved. You could see his celebration, but he didn't want that celebration to end, did he?
No, I think it was a perfect way and a very, very well-deserved goal from the last week. But Cardboard comes on and he's just absolutely electric. It's not just pace with him. There's trickery, there's a good touch. He runs with purpose. Exactly what we needed. Going into January, well, we needed it in the summer, didn't we? But going into January, we said we need somebody with electrifying pace who can play off that left-hand side and has got a real desire to cause mayhem and can run that diagonal run towards goal. And right now, he looks exactly what we needed. I'm very excited about him.
Well, I've got a little topic for us to discuss about reviewing the signings, because we haven't actually had chance because of everything going on. Yes. We haven't really had chance to have a proper chat and, well, to be honest, a proper look at the players. Now we've had a few games to have a look at these players. We can actually review them in a little bit more detail. But yeah, it was a great goal. It was lovely that Tyrese got that goal, because I think sometimes you need the reward. When you're putting in the performances like Dolan's put in the last couple of games, you want something to show for it at the end, and to get an assist, to get a goal, to play like he did against West Brom. I think it was just a nice, little accent on his performances for the week. We go into the Swansea game where Hopefully he will still get that position locked down, and he'll probably get a little bit of space as well to be able to do what he's doing. Was there anyone else, that really shone for you in that game? Because for me, it was Ribeiro. I thought he played really well. I thought he worked really well with Dolan. He had the dark arts down to a T. He flopped around when he needed to, which I know that you hate when it's against you, but when it's for you, you don't mind it. Was there anyone else?
I think we've pretty much mentioned the full team, haven't we? But I thought what I would say is Dion Sanderson. I haven't been critical of him, but I've thought he's looked a little bit raw and a little bit technique-wise. I've questioned him a little bit in the snippets I've seen. I thought against West Brom, he came in, slotted in really well. He was actually too eager to try and win the ball against West Brom when he first came on in the first half. Second half, he calmed it down. He was very good. And against Plymouth, I think the best compliment I can give him is I didn't really notice him. There was not a great deal for him and Hyam to do, but what they did do, they did very well. And I thought that to say again, we're probably on to our fourth or fifth choice centre half, if that's the level of them. Great stuff. Yeah.
Well, we've been asking for depth. It's something that we've cried out for all season. The recruitment team have gone and done their thing. We'll get into the Eustace thing, whether he was happy or not with that recruitment. But if we're being honest, this game, we got to see the new signings except for Dennis, and they all proved themselves. They all played their part, and I think sometimes that's all you want to see. You want to see these players come in and play their part. You don't want them just to be spectators. And I felt like they all did. I was quite impressed. I mean, we haven't had to. I know Pear's made his little mistake with the clearance, but generally he wasn't really called upon. I don't remember. Did he make any real saves? There was a couple he did quite well with in regards to pouncing on a ball, but
yeah, I think there was. I seem to remember one from distance that he just had good hands. It was pretty much straight at him, but good hand. Other than that, there wasn't a great deal. Yeah.
Well, actually, now you've said that, he did a really good one against West Brom. Actually, it was right down his throat, but he secured that really well, because that is not an easy one to deal with, because that ball would have moved. So we win the game 2-0. I think it could have been more, but I'm really impressed with that. Was there any three-word reactions you were chuffed with?
There was. I'm also just going to mention Pieface, the famous Plymouth man supporter. He's put on X, simply outplayed today by a better side. And they talked about Plymouth, so yeah. But the three-word review was at Ainsley24 on X, the one I picked out. This is togetherness. We all know what he's getting at.
Exactly. I haven't asked you if you were happy with the performances for both games, because I think we are happy with those performances. Do you think we can take these performances into the Swansea game?
I think we can. Yeah.
Well, Swansea 17th. They're not on great form.
No.
I think they've only won 1 in 6 or more than that. We're now showing a little bit more form. We've got the week. I can't see a manager coming in that week. I think it will probably be David Lowe in charge with Johnson, but it is away. It's pretty hard to come away from those two games and feel like we can't go there and get a really good performance. I know it's not exactly an easy place to go to, but they're not in form. We are. I know that form doesn't necessarily mean anything in the EFL, but we've got some injuries coming back. Do you have any information on the injuries?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously we've just got the Danny Bart injury. Immediately after the game, Lord said he thinks he's just used his experience and come off the pitch against West Brom before it was too bad, and he was hoping he'd be fit for the weekend. He had a scan. I don't know the full, obviously. I haven't seen the scan personally, Mike, but it looks, obviously, the fact he wasn't involved against Plymouth tells us that it's a little bit more than a precaution. Whether he'll be fit yet for Swansea, I don't know. But obviously, Hayden Carter was back on the bench, so he gets another 4 weeks training. What a great time for him to come back. And actually, we were looking at it, weren't we, at one stage saying, is he going to get back in? Barton and Hyam, you wouldn't really swap them out. This might be the opportunity where Hayden Carter gets back in, and then we've got a bit more pace, which is what Sanderson's give us as well. In terms of the other injuries, so Owen Beck's doing some rehab at the moment. He's got a hamstring knock. He's had a couple of back injuries. He's not played this many games, though, has he, before in his career in a season? And he's played too much, if we're being honest. So I think there's probably a bit of fatigue in there with Beck. I think he should be back for the Swansea game or in and around it. They might not risk him and might keep him for the week after. Then we've got Yuki Ohashi and Sondre Tronstad. They are coming back at the end of February. So they're back in full training just towards about another week to 10 days. So they're probably not going to be right until, is it Norwich, the first game in March, something like that. I think we'll be looking at March for them. And then obviously we've got Harry Pickering. It was a 3 or 4 month injury for Pickering. So I think the Easter international break is when they're expecting him to be back in training. I mean, we're in April then, aren't we? Whether he's actually going to play this season is tricky. But I'm not really fussed. As much as I love Harry Pickering, I think Yuri Rivero's come in and done a great job, and obviously Beck will be back. So I think we are well stocked. I think the signing of Ribeiro reflects Pickering's injury a bit as well. So, yeah.
People now calling for Ribeiro to get another year because of his performances. So we'll get into reviewing the signings. In fact, before we do that, is there anyone you want to see in particular for Swansea? For me, I want to see Gagpo start. I think that's the main one. Is there any for you?
Yeah, I wouldn't be against us going with the same team that played against West Brom. And then on the 60th minute, I think there is something exciting about bringing on the pace in the 60th minute and frightening them to death. I'll be honest, going into the Swansea game, I'm expecting 3 points now. I think the way Swansea play and the form they're in, but the way they play suits us down to the ground. I think they'll move the ball too slow. It allows us to sit in and do what we do quite well. And for the first time in a while, I actually can't see anything other than a Rovers win. I really can't. I just think the way they're set up is perfect for us. And if we play the way that we can do, I think we'll exploit them.
No, I feel the same. I really feel like if we can get a good week of training, let players rest that need to rest and play a relatively strong side, that there's no reason why we can't go there and get a win. Just got to stay switched on. But let's review those signings. So I'm not going to necessarily go back to the summer where we did sign, obviously, the likes of Gueye, Cantwell, Toth and so on. But now we've had a chance to look at the likes of Gagpo, obviously a permanent signing. Is he the one that's probably your most exciting out of the ones that we signed this winter?
Yeah, I think based on the fact that he's the only long-term signing, yeah. And I think it's just a position that we've really, really needed some electrifying pace and some quality. And, we talked about Adam Armstrong, didn't we? What a difference he'd make to our team. Now, I'm not saying he's going to go and get the goals of Armstrong, but he's got the similar attributes to Armstrong and he looks ready to go. So, yeah, I'm very, very excited about Carvahal. I think he's something a dynamic that we didn't have in the team, that he's just immediately, you look at the bench, don't you, 60th minute against, let's say, Swansea, the game, there's not much in it. You'd look at him and go, well, he can change a game now. So it gives us another completely different element to our game that if Swansea were able to just nullify our attacks, well, now they've got a very, very different problem. He's very direct. He's quick. He's got quick feet. He seems to make good decisions on the ball so far. We've obviously only seen snippets of him, and you only get to see somebody properly when they play an extended period. I think they are a bit worried about his defensive awareness and the way he fits into the. Obviously, we're so well drilled as a team. Everybody has a specific job to do. He doesn't know that role yet. Well, that's obvious because he's not been here for long. But yeah. I think he's, for the money we've paid as well, he looks like he's a hell of a signing.
Yeah, it was meant to be just under $1 million, I think we've signed him for. He's on a decent deal as well. I think there's an option there. which is good. I agree with you. I think he's looked very exciting. He looks explosive. He looks intelligent. I know I keep bringing that word up, but I think that is huge as well. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't know how to use it, then it's just wasted. And I feel like he's got something. I don't expect him to come and get loads of goals. I think he's just going to be one of those that's, because of the way that we're going to play him, I think he's going to be more creative, like not necessarily get the assist, but he's going to create something that ends up with with us getting chances or even the ball in the back of the net, which is exciting. I think Ribeiro at left back, we've only really seen him, for this week. It's quite hard to judge, but I've been very impressed with him. He's 28, so he has got plenty left in the tank. Whether we can get him on a free transfers, next year's another thing, because he could be playing to next level with us, because we was just an opportunity for him to put himself in the shop window, and then someone else comes in. So whether we can sign him for another year is another thing. But I've been very impressed with his work at the back and going forward. Adam Forshaw, what's your thoughts?
Exactly what I said before. I think we needed somebody that could come in immediately once Baker had gone. You got to remember at that time we had no Travis, no Tronstad, so it was only John Buckley, and he wasn't in sparkling form as a midfielder. We needed somebody who could come in and play. The fact we picked him up quickly, low cost, quite low risk, and he's got experience of playing in the Championship and getting promotion. You couldn't really ask for much more, could we? Because there was talk of Lewis O'Brien and things like that. I think the problem with that is, are you going to oust Tronstad or Travis when they're fit?
Mm.
Then you're starting to potentially upset everything. Whereas Forshaw, I think, probably accepts his role in this squad, and I think he seems to fit in very nicely in terms of the squad. Whether you extend it is a different matter, but he was here till the end of the season to do a job, and I think he's doing it.
Yeah, and we've had 3 loan signings as well. Woodrow we've not really seen, so I can't really comment on Woodrow. Same with Dennis, to be honest. I mean, we saw Dennis against Wolves, and he seemed to have a little bit of movement about him. He seemed to have a bit of quality. Do you think the reason we haven't seen them is just getting a match fit, or do you think it's just because Gueye's been playing so well?
Well, neither of them have played a single game this year, have they? I think it was April the last time Woodrow played, and March for Dennis. Until they played against, some minutes against Wolves in the cup for us. So they're going to be a million miles away from fitness, aren't they, if we're being honest? Although Dennis didn't look it, actually, neither did Woodrow against Wolves. But yeah, I think Gueye's form, though, has meant that we don't need to rush it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the last one's Dion Sanderson, 25 years old on loan. Obviously, he's going to be extremely upset that his mucker Eustace has left. But you've said your piece on him earlier and in earlier podcasts, and I can't really add to that. I completely agree. I think he's someone that offers good depth. I think he is energetic. I think he's got a lot of strength. He's not necessarily the quality where I'm looking at him, like we looked at some of our previous centre-backs that have come in on loan. We're just like, oh my God, like really want to sign these ones. He's just a depth player, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's one of them that is coming. We needed depth at the time. We needed a centre-half. Eustace knew him. We talked about that and obviously trusts him. He's got a bit of a point to prove. And if he just came in and did a job for us, that's fine. If he came in and proved actually he's more than that, then it's a bonus. So I think right now, I think he'll probably lose his place to Carter. I think Matt's still ahead of him. So I think he'll probably go back in the summer. But it's pretty low risk, isn't it? And he's very, very steady at worst. So yeah, I'm comfortable with that one as well, really.
I mean, my initial reaction coming out the window was I was relatively disappointed. I wasn't disappointed with the numbers that came in. I wasn't disappointed necessarily with the positions that we'd looked at. What I was disappointed about was I just wanted us to really make a bit more of a statement. I know that we've got these financial issues and stuff. I just felt like just the one signing at around the million, I wanted something else. And that's just me being like a child at Christmas. It's great to have a present. I just want more. But now, having chance to look at it, it looks like the recruitment team have done a good job. It's early days. We won't be able to fully review it until the end of the season. I think my final review is going to be that I think I'm going to have been happy, but that obviously depends on the next few games. What's your thoughts coming out of the window now? You've had a chance to sit and have a couple of weeks.
I can see the positives and negatives. I think there's going into the window, it was clear we needed a striker and a left winger with pace. Obviously, the teams with money go and sign Sheffield United, go and get Tom Cannon and Diaz. We're not at that level. If we'd have gone and got them two, I'd have gone, oh my God, we're having a real go. But realistically, we're not at that level, anywhere near it, whether that's wages or transfer fees. So there's always an element as a fan where you want them to go and spend money. You want to go and get a player and you go, oh my God, I'm so excited about this player. We're going to spend 4 or 5 million. But realistically, it doesn't guarantee you anything. We've seen we had Sam Gallagher. We've seen teams go and sign players. Ellis Sims, what did he go for 10, 12 million to Coventry? And yeah, he's doing a decent job, but is he doing more than Gueye is right now? No. So it doesn't guarantee you anything, I think is the concern. I'd have loved us to have gone and got Adam Armstrong when we knew he was kind of potentially available. I think the risk with that one was, obviously he's gone back to Mowbray, who he knows, but if we'd have gone and tried to get Adam Armstrong, apparently he became available at 10 p.m. on deadline day. Can you imagine if we'd have said, do you know what, Dennis, we're not going to bring you in, we're going to go all out for Adam Armstrong, and it doesn't get over the line? We just couldn't risk that. But I think that would have been...
Forest would have killed us to do that again.
But that would have really been one of them where you go, oh my God, we've got Armstrong. I'm dead excited about it. So there wasn't a name that I went, oh my God, I'm dead excited. I think Dennis, we knew a bit about him. I think that the pessimist side of it, we've got one permanent signing out of it. And we knew we needed a striker and a winger. And we didn't get them until the final. Well, the strikers didn't come in until February. And the winger didn't come in until late Jan. Both strikers have come in, haven't played for over 12 months, so it's near enough 12 months. So they're not match fit, so they're not ready to make an impact. So what we needed a striker, and we're probably not going to have one until March, realistically still. So that's not good enough. I always want players in as early as possible. We should have been working on this from the summer because we tried to get Cardboard then. You got to look at it and go, come on, get him in earlier. But we're not alone with that. The January transfer window, Arsenal needed a striker. They needed one for 5 windows. They haven't brought them in because they're not willing to just spend for the sake of it. Now, that's biting them on the rear with Havertz, but it is what it is. What I'm saying is Marcus Rashford should have gone at the beginning of January, ideally for Man United. They wanted him out the door. It took till the end of the window. This just happens. It's just the way it works, whether people want, I don't know, reportedly Dennis is on 80 grand a week at Forest. Rovers may have inquired or his agent's throwing him out there and we go, well, we can't afford 80 grand a week. We might have it. And then by the end of the window, actually, Forest just want him out the door. He just wants to go and play football and they settle on a deal of, is it reportedly 30% of that? So that's why it takes forever.
Oh, it's all mind games, isn't it, with them as well?
There is. And it's not for a want of trying. We know the club they clearly wanted Thomas Asante. They clearly thought that they were going to a level that was good enough for him, probably even slightly above that. But then all of a sudden, Coventry have had injuries to Hadji Wright, to Ellis Sims. He started playing, which he hadn't done before, and he's turned into Pele. So these things sometimes just happen. He'll probably end up back on the bench. So I could see him coming in the summer, actually. But these things do happen. I believe John Eustace was very, very keen on Patrick Bamford and thought he was the man that we needed. And then he came on against us and got injured because he's made of glass and he's still out now. So can you imagine if we'd have gone and got the striker that Eustace wanted, say, let's say it was Bamford, brings him in, 2nd of Jan, great news. Yeah, we signed him, massive wages. We're backing Eustace. We're going for this playoff push. He comes on in his first game for us, 10 minutes in, he breaks down, he's still not fit now. As fans, we're going to be looking at that going, well, we still need a striker. You're going to have to go out and spend some more money. So I can see both sides of it, but I think ultimately I'm a bit concerned about the longer term view of it. I think it's a very short term view. I understand it in some of the situations, but I think we have come out of a transfer window better than we went in again. And that's all you can really ask for in some senses. I do have some massive reservations, not just for the signings, but for the squad in terms of contracts, though.
Yeah, I do think we are better. I think most fans will agree. I mean, there's been more players come in than left over the winter, so that's the positives.
Yeah.
We did fill fill some gaps. Like I said before in my rant last week, I think the thing is whilst I appreciate the fact we have sorted some positions out, it's just not to the level I was really hoping for, and it's another season where we had the opportunity to really build, and I just wanted to have a statement signing, or two. The pool of players, I mean, to bring in the Man Uniteds and the Arsenals of the world, they're looking at a very small pool of players that are, at an elite level. Our pool's that little bit bigger, so you are, asking the recruitment team to go above and beyond and find these players, and they are finding the Garpos of the world that have come in, and they do seem to be players that are going to be doing well. Gueye, we hadn't heard of him, and he's come in, and now he's starting to perform. So maybe the recruitment team are pretty good. Maybe they do know what they're doing. Time will tell. We can't review, like I said earlier. I pass opinions on what I see over a prolonged period. I can't predict what's going to happen. I can't say, oh, this player is going to be amazing. We don't know. They could break down, like you say, at any point, and we don't know. So right now, I'm relatively happy with what happened. It sounds like Eustace wasn't happy. It sounds like he wanted to move on because he had broken promises. There's a lot of rumours going around. We're now searching for a new manager. I'm not sure what to make with the Eustace situation now. There's some of me that thinks he's been a little bit of a snake, is the term that's going around social media right now, where he just used us to find his next opportunity, which was either closer to home. He comes out in his interview with after the Wolves game saying, oh, it's the first I've heard of it, which was obviously on the Saturday. And then he's coming on in his Derby interview saying, I heard about it on the Friday. So obviously he's protected himself a little bit with the interviews, but there's something not right why he's left. I personally believe that he's left because he wasn't necessarily backed by the owners, and by that I think he went and obviously asked for more money, new contract, things like that, and he wasn't going to get it. I think that's pushed him, and but there is obviously another side where he's just used us until he gets an opportunity closer to home. Where are you falling with it right now?
I think that, again, I can completely see both sides of it. I think from a Eustace point of view, he's probably not earned massive money in his career. Football is very, very fickle. He'd won 2 in 11, was it? If he'd have gone and not won in the next 5, would we be talking about maybe replacing him? So he's got 18 months left on his deal at the time this is all going. His family aren't up here. Now, would he commit to moving his family up here last season? Probably not. This season, probably not. So then if he gets a 3-year deal, he probably would move his family up here. So I think there probably is a family element to it, albeit quite small. But every manager wants more control and more transfers. It happened when we've had Dalglish wanted Zidane reportedly, and Walker said no. Souness wanted more players. Managers always want more. We always want more as fans. So that's not something brand new. He probably wanted more control over transfers, but I don't think he can whinge about that because I think he will have known about the situation beforehand. He will have known coming into the club that the club feel that to protect themselves, they can't just allow a manager to dictate every transfer, because then if he leaves, as has happened, and we're left with a load of players that we don't feel fit into the club, then a new manager comes in and wants all of them out and to start again. We can't do that. So I think there's an element where I get where the club are coming from. He does have a say in transfers. I did have a say in transfers. He would say, I need a striker and a left winger. I want one with pace. I want this. They would go and spend all their time analysing every player under the sun, sieving it down and going, right, John, here you go. there will have been times he was frustrated. He clearly wanted Dembele in the summer, and he didn't get him. But is Dembele setting the world alight? Probably not. He wanted Patrick Bamford reportedly, but they would have gone with that, even though they felt they were worried about him breaking down and his injury record and his goals and the size of his wages. They were going to back him. That's not their fault that one didn't happen. They tried to get Thomas Asante in. So I think the transfers one is a bit null and void in some senses for me. I think the one where he's got real ground, well, there's two really. One, it's common courtesy to speak to your employees, and we're led to believe that the owners have never spoken to him. Now, I'll park that for a second, but that's bang out of order, minimum. Next one, I think, is he's got a real valid point, is if you want to be, a head coach, that's what they want him to be. That talks about developing players, developing a culture, developing the squad. And the whole reason you have a recruitment team, like we've said, is to keep the club moving forward, despite managers coming and going. Okay. But then surely a key element to that is nailing down contracts for your key players. People like Lewis Travis, that doesn't matter what manager comes in, you as a club feel he is a key integral part. And I'm really worried that we've got a lot of people expiring this summer, albeit some with options, but we've got 13 players out of contract because of loans or whatever this summer. Now, some of them have extensions, but by the end of next year, there's then another 3. And most of them play a lot of minutes. They play week in, week out, and are integral parts of this squad. So if you're John Eustace and you're saying, well, just tell me that you're going to renew them, aren't you? And they're not doing, then from him personally, you're ripping everything up and starting again, because we've talked about how everything that this team does is because he's drilled them so well. You're going to have to do those basics again in the summer. But actually, what message is it sending? Keep pulling rabbits out of the hat, John. So I think from that element, he's absolutely valid to have a disagreement. And me as a supporter, I have the same concern about that. I think just taking the owners thing again. Now, they've previously asked managers to travel over there at the drop of a hat. I know the one who I'll never speak about was over there every week, best mates with them. But then Mowbray was doing it, wasn't he? He was going over 2-3 times a year. So to never speak to him tells me a lot about their interest levels right now. I think what we've got to remember with the owners is we are one of, is it over 100 companies that they've got? And John Eustace is one employee in that company. Now, to me, this is the most important company that they have. But maybe it's not to them. Maybe that's where we are at with it. And that's what it's telling me, which is concerning. But it's not concerning if the people running the club are able to do what they are wanting to do. Now, I think the recruitment team, we can judge them in another year, 18 months, whatever. But if you're not renewing contracts, that's concerning. We had a spell where when it got to Greg Broughton came in and he said 24 months out. So when a player's coming down to the last 2 to 18 months that we really want to renew them, we're going to renew them. And if not, we need to get them out the door to protect their value. I don't get why we're not doing that. Now, that's not a Greg Broughton leaving thing, because Greg Broughton doesn't really or didn't have the power to do that. He had the power to say, that's what I want to do, but there are other people that sign stuff off. Obviously, we've got Steve Waggett, the CEO, that does that, but then Sahel Pasha's the one who's the owner's representative, because the problem we used to have was to get anything done, I couldn't sign it off if I'm Steve Waggett. I have to ring the owners and say, oh, by the way, India's 5-hour time difference. Oh, sorry, that can't happen today. So they have a budget in place, and within that, I believe Sahel can sign stuff off day to day and make sort of on-the-ground decisions, not strategic ones, but on-the-ground decisions. So why are we not renewing contracts is the big question for me. I think that's the thing where I think Eustace has gripes. Reportedly, offering his services, or his agent offering his services around, is not a good look. And then the fact he's gone and blatantly lied in the interview against Wolves, he's obviously panicked and thought, I don't want to say anything too untoward, but either double down on your lie and don't say it was Friday and you derby on, or just, if he'd have turned around after the Wolves game and said, well, yeah, I was approached about it, but I'm not even going there because we had a game today, I'd have been fine with that. And if he'd have just said, I don't know, I'm not answering, I'd have been fine with that. The fact he's lied is not a good look, because that then throws everything into question, doesn't it? But, Yeah, I think. I also think he's made a big mistake joining Derby. I think he's got a massive job on his hands, and it must be a real difficult shift in mentality for the coaching staff. But from our point of view, I think the only thing he's got a valid point about is the contracts, and it's concerning me as well.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is now we are getting some national media attention. I'm seeing a lot more on the BBC, TalkSport. In fact, TalkSport actually asked me and you to go on, but because we're working, we missed the message and we missed our opportunity, which was a bit gutting because that would have been good to talk to Hawksby and Jacobs. We actually found that The Guardian used what we put on the podcast near enough word for word in their article. So that's quite nice that we've got them watching us as well. But the good thing is people are now starting to see that it's not being run properly. We're hearing rumours. I mean, Troy Deeney came out and said a few things. I don't trust a word Troy Deeney says, but he came out saying about how the training ground's awful and Eustace is upset. I mean, you've been to the training grounds. It's one of the best in the UK, isn't it?
Yeah, Troy Deeney has done a job there to try and protect his mate, and whether
100%.
But I actually suspect Eustace probably didn't even know he was going to do it, and I don't think he's done him any favours. The fact he got Sam Gallagher and Sam Smodics mixed up said it all. I mean, Deeney went to the training ground last year. Loads of people do it. It's quite a common place where people come and they want to get experience of clubs and things like that, and they come and visit. It's quite a done thing in football. I was at the training ground not that long ago. Yes, there's things that the club, they're not a club anymore that will just go, oh, yeah, you want this? Yeah, let's get a new telly. Let's get it. You know, they're questioning little small purchases, and but it's certainly not falling to bits. The canteens had a bit of a refurb because the players said, oh, we want to do X, Y, and Z. So they've done that. The pitches are excellent. We've still got an academy. We've still got a pool in there. We've got a 4G indoor pitch. Generally, people come to the club and say, do you know what? Those facilities are really good. I think there are elements where they need to. It just bugs
some of it's outdated. Some of it's outdated. But I mean, it's football, isn't it? You can't keep on top of all the technologies all the time.
No, and I think that there are little things that bug me, like when you drive into the training ground or drive into the ground and the signs are not clean. I just think basics like that send a message. And obviously the academy used to be at the training ground and the doors have the badge embossed onto them, but it's the academy badge. Little things like that, little touches, I think sometimes could be done, but it's certainly not falling to bits.
It's not as bad as what he's saying, is it? So we're hearing these stories about him coming out and saying that. Don't trust anything Troy Deeney says for a start. It sounds like we can't necessarily trust anything Eustace says based on what he's come out with. My gut feeling is he knew what he was getting into. He hoped certain things would change. I think there was some so-called promises that he was made that were broken, but that could just be that the goalposts had changed at certain points. I think there's a lot of things that probably irritated Eustace. I agree with you. I think the contracts thing is a bit worrying. I think the lack of financial signings has been a little bit worrying, but that could be from the fact that we've got this India thing still going on. My gut feeling is he saw an opportunity to go and earn more money at a club that's closer to home. He's on a relatively long contract, and if Derby do go down, they will probably bounce straight back up. So I think it's there's a sum of all parts kind of thing that's happened here. What's not good look for us is that it's happened, because then I do think that sometimes other managers will look and say, well, why is this guy gone from this club where it is to a club where that is? So that's been a little bit of a worry for me. So let's get into those, the manager candidates. So Mark Braithwaite, Ross Gibson, Mark Atherton, you've all asked basically the same question. What's the new head coach predictions? Should we give Lowe a chance to the end of the season to buy us time? So for me, giving Lowe a chance, yes, I think he's been great. I think the last 2 games have been great. My concern is the number of coaches you've got, because we've lost 3 coaches that had quite a lot of responsibility, and the people that have moved into those positions, be it Lowe, Johnson, Benson, they have other responsibilities that they're not necessarily concentrating on. So you are spreading 3 people very thin there. So even if Lowe does have to step up and bring Damian Johnson and Ben Benson with him into those positions, you're then having to recruit other coaches. Now, yes, you could step everyone up from youth level and everyone start doing, but there's a lot of responsibility there. And I believe we don't actually have a massive amount of coaches on our coaching staff. So I think just saying give it Lowe to the end of the season isn't that simple. You will have to bring people in around him. So that begs the question, though, is it worth upsetting the apple cart and bringing someone else in if you know Lowe's doing well? So, Mark, what's your opinions on the Lowe situation to start with?
I think that is the $1 million question, isn't it? I think before these 2 games, it was not a question for me. It was about whether we go for a short-term manager with a view to getting in the playoffs and whatever, or do we look longer term and think about what fits the club. I think on Saturday night, I'd have probably said, yeah, let's go with David Lowe. But taking stock about it all, I think we've got through 2 games on emotion, and probably I'm not discrediting him here at all, but I think the players will have had as much to do with this as any coach would have done. I think my concern with a new manager coming in is we are so well drilled and everyone knows their roles. You don't want somebody to come in who's got really different viewpoints and a different style completely.
Well, look at Man United. Look what's happening with them.
Yeah, I think that's a danger, because we are a sum of all parts, and the fact that we know what we're doing in situations is our strength. So somebody to come in and wants to change that a lot will be a problem. But I think you can only get so far on emotion, and like you said about them, they're spread way too thinly. I think actually there comes a point in a season where, and that might be in a playoff semi-final, hopefully it might be in a playoff final, where you need somebody with that tactical nous and experience of making those calls, and he's not got that.
And we would have already been prepared for the last 2 games beforehand. Now we're going to be going to the Swansea game, where Lowe's and his team have now got to prepare for that, doing old roles as well as their new roles, haven't they?
Yeah, and they've got a 4 weeks training. They've got to settle. Now he'll know how to do that. And one advantage of Lowe is he's been the opposition scout, so he has been looking at how to exploit opposition. So that side of it he will be familiar with. I just think a manager is a manager for a reason, and a caretaker generally doesn't work when you extend it beyond a very short period of time. We saw that with Tony Parks, didn't we? The wonderful Tony. But yeah, I think for me, we do need to bring a manager in, but we have to be very careful who it is.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a new manager. We've had a few messages off people asking our opinions on who. We weren't sold on Eustace, and whether we think it was a success or not, we're still in the playoffs, and he kept us up, and we're still in the playoffs. So let's assume he was a success. We didn't expect it. So I didn't expect Bradley Dack to be the player he was. It's really difficult when decisions are made, because you just don't know. So my instincts with some of the managers that we're being linked to is that, for me, I think the unrealistic link that I would quite like is maybe a Lee Carsley, because I think that I just got a feeling that Lee Carsley could be successful. I mean, people put their comments down below on what they think of Lee Carsley. I don't think it will happen. And I think the other one's Gary O'Neill for me. Who out of you, the ones that were being linked to, blow your skirt up?
Again, before the 2 games, I was very much of a, I didn't think we'd get him, but just give Big Sam a ring till the end of the season with a massive, a massive bonus at the end of the season should he take us up or anything like that. I think unrealistic ones for me, I know he's got the Dingle connections, but I just think Sean Dyche did it with a terrible football club who were awfully run and awful players, and he managed to turn them into a relative success. So I think he would do it. My concern with O'Neill is he's done it for short periods, but he's never been in this situation. I think what I do know is the club like people who've got experience of the league. So they felt that the times it didn't work with Thomason was he didn't have the understanding of 3-game weeks. And that is very common in the Championship. And actually, not having a week on the training ground and how you manage without any time on the actual grass is a massive part of it in the Championship. We've seen that in our midweek games. So I think I can't see them not bringing somebody in who's got probably Championship experience, but Richie Wellens, for example, who's been mentioned, would also fit because he's got that same experience of Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday. So, I could see that link. But the one name, the more I think about it, is Rob Edwards. Now, ironically, in the long term, I don't think I would pick Rob Edwards. If this was a summer, I wouldn't be picking him. The reason that I think he's actually coming more to my mind is he's done this exact job. He took over from Nathan Jones, and Luton didn't have any superstars. They were just a gritty, horrible team, really, and they were roughly in and around the playoffs. He didn't change too much. The players all still loved him. He got them over the line. He got them in the Premier League and made the best of the 3 teams, best fist of it, didn't he, keeping them up when they were probably not the best of it. However, my concerns are then they've fallen off a cliff this year. He didn't do it at Watford. And that's why, longer term, I'm not as certain. But I think he's done this job, and I think this is a real specific job. Coming in, not changing too much, just being careful enough around managing the other staff as well, and keeping what's good and just adding a touch. He's done that exact job. So, yeah, I am leaning a bit more to him.
Yeah, he was a name that I thought. They're not... Let's be honest, they're not going to be exciting appointments because you don't really get exciting appointments in the Championship, do you? And you never know who's going to work. Exactly what you said. We're being linked to Steven Gerrard. I just know because I just think that he has no experience at this level, exactly what you're saying. The only good thing he can bring is a relationship with Liverpool to get some of their players on loan. Past that, has he done anything that would really...
no,
pad his CV out and make us get excited?
No. Obviously, if he came in, you'd get massively behind him. He did it at Rangers, but it's very different. I can't see it being somebody who hasn't had experience of either the league or League One, say, which is where Wellens would fit. So I think if you're talking a foreign manager, that wouldn't be beyond the realms, but it'd have to be somebody that's had experience. So Carvahal's obviously just been working with Yuri Ribeiro. He's at Braga at the moment. I could see that, although he's in work, so that puts doubt on it. And then Valérien Ismaël is the other one. He's obviously worked with Woodrow. He's worked with Britain. He's an experience of getting in the playoffs in the Championship. He's out of work. I think if we're going to get a foreign manager, it will still be somebody who's had experience of the league. So for me, I think that they will probably be interviewing Ismaël, maybe Carvahal, or having a conversation with his agent. I think Edwards, O'Neill maybe. And Gerrard might well throw his hat in the ring. Why wouldn't he? And you'd have a conversation with him. And then you never know. You just don't know what that conversation leads to. But I don't think he will be somebody that they will be actively seeking. If he wants a conversation with them and wows them, then that's a different story. But yeah.
Yeah, and like I said last week, the trouble is all these rumours and all these news reports now of the owners and what's gone on, and now we're highlighting what's gone on over the last 10 years. Which I know that obviously I've put out there as well, but it may put some managers off. But we are attractive prospect other than who's going to be their boss. If they get the financial side sorted and they start to put some money back into the playing staff. So if we'd had a window where they'd actually put in a few million, I think that would attract some managers because they're like, well, hang on, the owners may not be that bad because they have done this, they have done that. But when you're getting these comments coming, about why Eustace has left and the frustration, the fact that we didn't do much in the window from a financial point of view, and then they've then got to, whoever comes in, you've probably got to convince them and say, look, we are wanting to put money in, but we've just got this situation. It is going to get sorted. But if they do any due diligence, they're going to look back and say, well, hang on, it was supposed to be sorted a few months ago, and then a few months before that, and then a few months before that, and it still hasn't. So that's my concern. But like you said last week, managers are arrogant. You know, they want to come in and be the ones to say, do you know what? Blackburn Rovers, magnificent historic football club, and I want to be the one that brings them back. I mean, look at Souness. You know, he came in and he brought us back. We won a trophy, and could you say he's a club legend as a manager? Maybe. I think so. I know he left us, but I think he was a legend for doing what he did with us. And the next person could be thinking along those lines, but you don't know. You don't know, and you don't know who's going to be successful.
No, you don't. And I think the club have made, under Mowbray, we were always worried, weren't we, about that was the common debate. A lot of people wanted Mowbray to go, and a lot of it was, well, yeah, but who are they going to appoint? Actually, look at our last 3 appointments now. They've been good managers for us, really. I wouldn't have picked Eustace. I wouldn't have picked Eustace 10 games into his reign when he hadn't got a win last year. But I think looking back, we'll probably look back on him and say, do you know what? He was a decent manager for us. Dare I say I trust them to make the right decision. But I know it should put you off, but I think managers are arrogant sods. I think they'll look at it. You know, some of us will look at it glass half empty and say, well, Blackburn could drop like a stone here and it could look like it's you. I don't think managers look at it like that. I think they go, we're 5th in the league. I can get them over the line here and I can almost take all the credit. And then I'm a Premier League manager in 12, 13 games. So, I mean, what I would say is just imagine playoffs. We finished 6th. Dingle's finished 3rd. Sean Dyche, 2 legs. Job done. Yeah.
Well, it's been a long pod, so we'll just let everyone fester on that. Everyone put their comments down below what your thoughts are on the manager situation. Why did Eustace leave? Who do you want to come in out of who we're linked with? Who scares you? Who excites you? Any comments, please put them down below. Any questions? Thanks for everyone that's put questions into the mailbag. Sorry we haven't got to all of them. There's been some good ones in there that we'll roll over to next week. But Mark, it's been our longest pod yet, I believe. It's been nice and positive in the most part. Are you feeling good over the next week?
Absolutely. I'm very positive about the future. I think we are a club who are sat in 5th in the table. Ignore the outside noise. We've got every opportunity to get in the playoffs. We've got every asset in that squad that can do so. We've got injuries coming back. Let's go and batter Swansea. I said last week we'd come to this pod. I did say we might have a manager in place, but we'd have 6 points. I'm going to say we'll be back in this time next week with a manager in place and with another 3 points. Yes.
Well, I hope so, Mark. Well, thanks for being here with us once again, and it's been a pleasure to talk Rovers. Again, anyone that wants to email in, it's theblackburnend@gmail.com. The tweet goes out, comments down below. Make sure you like, subscribe, share the podcast. We're still trying to grow, and hope we all have a good week. And we've all got those 3 points and manager in place, and we can all be excited next week. Until then, have a good one, and see you next time.